I heard that we hitting at 14th, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I heard that we hitting at Grand Central, let's go. I heard that we hitting at Times Square, let's go. I heard that we hitting at Union Square, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Max. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Max. I'm here with my friend Jonaed. Jonaed, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Always happy to kick it with you, Max.
So, for those of you, if there's still anyone out there who doesn't know who this guy is, his name is Jonaed Iqbal. He is an entrepreneur. He is a recruiter, and he's an expert at resumes. And he's my friend. We actually met on LinkedIn around 2020, right?
Yeah.
Right around the pandemic.
You know what? I can actually search up how long we've been connected.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
check it out.
I'm going to tell you, it's always cool to see when I've connected with people, because it's like people think that online relationships aren't real. And it's like the strongest relationships I have are from people who I've met online. And, just like you, I've met you in person many times. We talk on a regular basis. And again, it just started when I met you. I didn't know what was going to turn out of it. Okay, so you're slightly wrong, but January 14th, 2021, but still,
right,
3.5 years.
2021 was still the pandemic.
Yeah, so we'll hit 4 years in a few months.
But yeah, you mentioned these days I feel like I meet so many people online first, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually, not everyone, but sometimes some of the people I'll meet in person. But I gotta say, you are an expert at meeting people online first, and then eventually meeting them in person.
Yeah, one thing that people don't realize is that the beauty of online is you can network 24/7. Like 11 at night, what are you going to do? Are you going to hit up a random bar in the city? You could, but you don't know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
You can just be much more intentional all the time. And I used to network, I'm in New York City, I used to network a lot in New York City. I used to go to multiple events a week, pitch nights and all that stuff. And once I started being active on LinkedIn, around the end of 2019, it was just like, I could go to an in-person event, or I could just comment on LinkedIn. Because when you go to an in-person event, let's say it takes 30 minutes to get ready.
It's time and money. Energy.
Yep. Yeah. You gotta get ready, you gotta go drive, take the train. So let's say you lose another hour, then you're there 2 hours, and you come back an hour.
Yeah.
Right? So this event, that's 2 hours, will take 4 to 5 hours of your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And let's say you're quick, it takes 3 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I can straight up just comment for 3 hours on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And those comments actually have built a lot of relationships for me.
So you've got a massive following on LinkedIn, right? And I love this story because I asked you, I was like, how did you build your following on LinkedIn? And tell me that story.
Man,
tell the audience the story.
So I used to do 100 comments a day on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
For months at a time. I don't do as much now, but I'll still try to get my 10 to 20 a day. And I checked, I did a data dump. I've done over 100,000 comments on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Now, this includes comment replies on my own post. But the beauty is that commenting goes far. And then when you ask for calls to people that you've already commented on, they're more likely to give you calls.
Yeah.
And people will respond back to your comments, and people will know you for your comments. Now, don't do comments like amazing, congrats, thanks.
Yeah.
Give meaningful
actually
comments.
Engage it. Well, sometimes I do that if I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I think something's better than nothing. Yeah. But superficial is still superficial.
Yeah.
If you write something that shows that you actually engaged and read the post, I think that helps.
Yeah.
But I think
especially with AI, right? You have to be a little more unique because too many people are doing AI comments, and you can tell they have a certain formula to it. Your comments are very similar to all the other comments of other people who are using AI. So I say be a little thoughtful. So if you can't do as many comments, leave a few thoughtful comments. But some is better than none. Yeah.
So 100 comments a day, and I gotta say this: you were a wrestling champion, right?
Not a champion, but
you were a good wrestler in high school?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school. I was captain of my team. I went to Bronx Science. I went to the Bronx, and I'm still friends with my high school wrestling coach.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's awesome. But the wrestlers, I know, the most successful people that I know in my personal life, were all wrestlers. But yeah, the 100 comments a day, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've met so many cool people through you. Like, comes to mind, Anthony Tavelis.
Yeah.
Martin Stark. And also, you actually were on, I think, Rena Friedman Watts' podcast,
Yep,
right?
I was on her podcast.
Better Call Daddy. Yeah.
Yep.
Rena, shout out to Rena. She's awesome. So, one of the questions that I get from a lot of college students and client, people outside of college, is how do you network, right? And, I didn't know how to network. I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
But when I was speaking with Anthony, he said all of the opportunities that he's gotten in like the last 10 years have been through LinkedIn referrals.
Yep.
And I think that's the power of a strong following.
Yeah. Now, how do you network? We need to go from what traditional schools teach about networking, what traditional people teach about networking. Because they just like go out, meet people, and you'll get a job or an opportunity.
And that's not being strategic. Because if you just go to like a typical networking event, usually what happens is you're just going to get a bunch of people that are just going to shove their business card in your face, right? And it's going to be like small talk, and they're going to figure out what's his title, how important is he, how much money does he make, right? And then they're going to decide in that instant whether or not they want to talk to you or not.
Yep.
And it's usually a waste of time.
It is.
Usually. Not all the time.
Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to be much more strategic in networking. And here's the reality for someone like me. I have a following, and this has happened so much, you get burned by networking. You get these people who are like, hey, I really like what you're doing, let's hop on a call. And the call is just them. It's one-sided, right? Like, they're just asking you questions, but what they really want is they want a job. And here's the thing. People think that you're just going to go and get a job. And when you're networking, no one's going to be like, Max, thank you so much. I've been sitting on these
Today's the
jobs.
day that Today's the day I woke up and I'm going to make Jonaed a millionaire.
Yeah. Or, people ask for jobs, and the reality is I'm not like, hey, Max, I have 5 jobs. I didn't know what to do with them. Here, just take one. The reality is that people spell this. People who network and they've been around, and especially with a lot of people teaching these strategies, it's gotten old. Where it's like I could tell when a call's transactional, and I could tell it's a waste of my time, and I could tell the person will never follow up, and they'll never benefit me in any way. And I'm not saying they have to benefit me, but it's about the intention. They're never going to engage with me. They're never going to follow up. And if I ever ask for anything small, they never answer. So when you now you have to be much more strategic. And what I say is networking is about giving.
Yeah.
And the more I give, the more I receive.
Yeah.
Now, how do you do that? If I gave everyone $1,000 in networking, I'd be very good at networking.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run out of it's Wednesday, I'll run out of money by Friday.
Yeah.
However, in certain cases, it does make sense to give a lot. For example, if you told me, hey, Jonaed, there's a conference, and if you pay $1,000, you'll get the VIP ticket, and you'll meet the CEO of Microsoft, Google, in the speaker room and all that, I'll 100% do it. Because that could lead to a job, it could lead to a contract, it could lead to big opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? But we have limited time and resources. We can't just go to all these conferences and all that. You'll run out of money. So what do you have to do? You have to find something that you can give that's low cost to you, but high value to them. And what is that? Information. The right information to the right person at the right time is worth a lot of money. Yeah. So when you're networking, find out things that you can give. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I know you take your camera. So you go and you're like, hey, if you need someone to take photos or video of the event.
That's one great way to stand out.
Yeah. And then I did a resume for one of my clients who worked at a car dealership. So I told them, I said, tell people, hey, if you're ever buying a car, let me know. Yeah. I'm more than happy to help you negotiate. And when I bought a car, I called him. He told me, hey, Jonaed, here's what you're going to do. Here's how you're going to counter. And if anything changes, you let me know. So you really have to think about, what can I offer them? And it doesn't have to be a lie. Like, I've told people, hey, if you're ever visiting New York City, shoot me a text.
Yeah.
These little things, but try to add something back to them. And when people see that, they're like, wow.
Yeah. I think people, I read an article the other day that said, be a connector, not a networker.
Yep.
Meaning, connect to people who you think might benefit from knowing someone. Like, I know a guy named Tim Lee, who I think I've introduced you to. He's a serial entrepreneur in the fintech space.
Yep.
And then I met someone at Central Park at one of those tech walks,
Yeah.
which is actually really cool because you're combining networking with exercise,
Yeah.
right, and the outdoors. So, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'm trying to get into the fintech world. I was like, I actually know someone who's very involved in the fintech world. I made that introduction, and don't know if it led to a job for him, but he said it was a very fruitful conversation.
Look,
So always, trying to think, what can I offer this person, right? But I think too many, and I agree with you, too many times people approach it like, what can I get out from this? And that's not the way to do it.
You can tell that so easily.
Yeah.
And look, I've had people who introduce me to other people. They're like, let's say you introduce me to your friend, and they're like, hey, meet this person. I'll take the call because I know you, but they kind of mess it up. And I'm like, hey, Max, FYI, I just want to let them know, like, hey, look, I talked to them. They seem like a great person, but it doesn't look like it's going to work out. Like, people get good at detecting people who are just in it for themselves.
Yeah. So you are an expert resume writer?
Yeah.
And an advisor. Okay. And I know you've helped me with my resume in the past. You've got, how many resume reviews do you have on LinkedIn? Recommendations do you have on LinkedIn?
I have over 310 public recommendations on LinkedIn.
That's quite impressive. So what are your thoughts about AI and affecting the resume game and hiring? Is it going to make it better or worse?
So as a resume writer, I've gotten more business since AI has come out.
Okay.
So my business is more about the state of the market. When the market gets bad, I actually get more inquiries. When the market is not as bad, I get fewer inquiries. I still get a decent amount. It's the quality of people reaching out. Like, I've had people who have patents, who have, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Microsofts, who are struggling to find work. Because
Really?
it's that market.
Yeah.
It's that market. People high level who've never struggled before. So here's the thing. AI is dependent on prompts.
Yeah.
So if you knew the right prompts to write a resume, you had the knowledge, you could do it yourself. And people can do a good job by themselves. The issue is, like, the writing the resume is not the hard part. It's me sitting down with someone and getting their accomplishments.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do it yourself, sit down and really think, like, what did I do in this role? What impact did it have? And give some context.
Okay.
And then spend genuine time. Now, you could write that out and then put it into, like, a ChatGPT and say, hey, can you condense this into the format of what I did and what I achieved so I could put it on a resume?
Okay.
It could do it. But the hard part is getting that information out and really think about it in a different form. The issue with a lot of online resume builders, they're not built by people who know resume writing.
Okay.
They're built by software engineers who see a problem, but they're not solving the actual problem. They're just putting generic words that sound nice, but don't really do much, and they don't realize how some of these applicant tracking systems work.
Yeah. What are some tips that you would give to college students trying to break into tech, finding that first internship or entry-level role?
I would
Because
say
job searching is very different today than it was years ago.
I would say first you have to be a little more specific.
Okay.
So when people are searching for jobs, they're just like, hey, I want any job. And I get it. As a college student, you want to get any job.
Yeah.
What you have to do is like, hey, if you're in tech, what are you going to do in tech? Are you going to program? And if you're going to program, are you going to be front end? Or are you going to be back end? And then from there, it's like, what languages are you going to focus on? What tools? What technologies? Are you going to know cloud? Are you going to be more on the data side? Like, what is your end goal? And if you're not on just the programming side, are you more on the cloud side? Are you more on the operations side? Are you a business analyst? People don't realize, like, tech is really big.
It is.
So you really want to know the different functions and which ones you like. The good thing about tech is you could choose a function, get into it. If you don't like it, you can switch to another role. And by having that role, you're actually more valuable to this other role, and you bring unique value. One great thing about tech is you can create your own experience.
Yeah.
So you want to be a front-end programmer. So that front end is usually like how things look and all that. You can create portfolio websites. So you can approach a local business and build them a website. Now you have something on your portfolio.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Back end, you could partner with someone who's on front end and create solutions. So, and I generally say, like, volunteer, find a small business, network, and get portfolio projects.
I think there's so much opportunity right now to just find small business owners, and you could almost create like an AI services business.
Yeah.
Right? Where you just get any small business, and then just say, hey, I'm going to help you with your website. I'm going to help you create a lot of content to get traffic to your website. And never been easier to do, I think.
Yeah, it's never been easier. But one thing I'll say is I would say to scope it down. Because you could create the website, you could create content, you could do this. But I find that it could get overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I say, like, it's better to niche down.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, if you're going to do a website, just do the website. Maybe you could add some other things, but the website is going to be the core focus.
Yeah.
If you're going to do content, just do content. And then choose which platform. Like, creating content on YouTube is different from TikTok. It's different from LinkedIn. It's different. So it's like...
platforms are different, yeah. So you create engagement. You create great engagement when you post on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
How did you figure out, like, did you do a lot of A/B testing? What was it?
I was on Reddit for years, and I would watch other people write.
And Reddit, speaking of Reddit shares went through the roof today. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't see that. But I've been a user for a while, and I learned, like, the art of copywriting.
Okay.
And essentially, like, you need to know some form of copywriting to do well online. Because, like, there are people who just specialize in YouTube scripts.
Yep.
So you want to learn a little copywriting, you want to test, get work on your headlines. Now, I started LinkedIn when it was easy, when it was 2019. It was very easy.
Yeah.
Now, over time, I just stepped up my game. I saw, hey, I'm not getting as much traffic. It's getting more competitive. What I do, I was like, you know what? Make my content better. You'll see people complain like, hey, algorithm, this and that. It's just make your content better, make your hooks better, make your endings better, spend time engaging. But I've always focused, like, when I grow, I focus on community-based growth.
Okay.
I could have grown faster, but I chose to network with my community. I chose to comment. I chose to meet people in person. So regardless of an algorithm, I always am going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and if you have a strong network, yes, you'll be there. So a couple names I'm going to mention. Tell me the first word that comes to your mind. Anthony Savellis.
Oh, one of my best friends.
Rena Friedman Watts.
Interesting podcast.
Martin Stark.
Courageous.
Kevin Logan Jr.
Oh, man, he's my dance partner, man. He's a partner in crime.
Yes, he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. So, so you have launched several entrepreneur ventures, right?
Yep.
Virtual events.
I did a virtual events business. I have the career development business. And
what have you learned?
I've learned that entrepreneurship is very hard.
Yeah.
People will make it seem easy, and you'll have ups and downs, and it'll really test you. I always say that if you're going to do it, start doing little things on the side and focus on the long term. I've been at my business and just business 10 years, and even before that, I was, tutoring in college and all that. It's going to really just test you, and you're going to want to give up, and you just got to keep going, and you have to grow as a person. Look, I partner with friends, and I think now if I ever do it again, I would have done it differently.
Okay.
I took too much risk early, and if it paid off, I would be a millionaire, but not all risks pay off, so I wish I would have saved a little more money. I would have waited. But I've learned, right? I've learned if I were ever to partner with friends again, I'm going to set expectations. Yeah. I'm going to do that because sometimes you have one thing and you're the one doing all the work, and some people have jobs. So you learn these things about people, and it doesn't mean they're bad people, but it takes a different type of person to partner with and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. How do you... Okay, so you mentioned you might go about it differently. How do you pick who your partner is? Because this is someone you're going to be spending a ton of time with. And it's not just the time, right? It's the way you see things.
Yeah, I think
your
now...
values.
Yeah. I mean, first I just chose proximity. Like, we were friends in the same area. Now it's like I'm just much more strategic. It's like, what idea are we doing together? What are the expectations? What have they done in the past? What do they bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? When working together, what can we do that others can't? And I think now, if I were to ever partner again, I'm going to partner with people on small projects. Mm-hmm. We see how the project goes. And then I learn things about them. Because, again, I've had partners who just have they change over time or their belief systems are different. And look, that's okay, nothing wrong with that. But I just could not work with them in that capacity because I'm a certain way, they're a certain way. But one thing I would say is the most important thing when you're partnering with someone in business is they have to be willing to get paid for $0 an hour for an undetermined amount of time. Yeah. If you meet someone who's like, hey, I gotta get paid right away, I'm doing this, you're an entrepreneur. Like, you're not gonna get paid. And there are entrepreneurs who don't get paid for 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, you really have to get that person. I'm not saying they have to work unpaid for 10, 20 years. People don't have that bandwidth, but they have to be willing to not get paid and be willing to do the work on a Friday night.
Yeah. And that's, I think too many people are attached to the paycheck.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why so many people live, what's the phrase, paycheck to paycheck. And they can never escape it because if they miss one paycheck, their entire financial health, their entire life falls, and it's terrible. It's not good. I think the financial education in this country needs to improve, definitely. What was I going to ask you about? If you could have a billboard that's overlooking the Cross Bronx Expressway, and I could say anything 10 words or less, what would it say?
Man, this is tough. You know, one of my favorite quotes is I like, be the change you wish to see in the world.
I like that one. That's a good one.
And too many times, like, people will complain about, hey, this is not right, and it starts with us.
Yeah.
Hold that door open for someone. Just do the things you want others to do to you. And I've always seen it that way because I've seen people complain about things, but when it comes to their own actions, like they'll say, hey, my neighborhood's so dirty or whatever, and then you see them throw things out their window. And it's like, hey, you know what? Like, people don't realize that things happen because of the collection of individual action. And it's like, leave that example because others will learn from you. Your kids will learn from you. The younger people will learn from you. Even older people. And you can control those actions and just eventually slowly influence those around you.
Are there any books or podcasts or blogs that you would recommend to not just a college student, but anyone who's looking to level up or find a better job, start a business?
I really like the book Never Split the Difference.
By Chris Voss?
By Chris Voss.
Yeah.
It's a book on negotiation, but I feel it's a book on communication in general.
Yeah.
That you learn that what is negotiation is understanding yourself, is understanding them, understanding the position, and just being thoughtful. So that's a book that I would say read. I have to read it again. It's a book that's worth reading multiple times.
Yeah. We could do a whole separate podcast just on that book alone.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from that book. I think one of the things was the best negotiators do not fear the word no.
Yeah.
Because no starts the negotiation. Yeah. What was another thing? They said when you're trying to negotiate a salary, don't give a number, give a range.
Yep.
And the reason he said that is because most hiring managers don't want to be the bad guy. And if you give them a range, right, they're going to choose something closer to the higher end.
Yeah.
Because that way they'll feel like they're more generous, right? And then you get a better deal as the job seeker, right? If you just give them a number, right, then that's the number.
Like
maybe they'll give you 10% more than that.
Yeah, like what if you said, hey, I need 150, and they're like, hey, we could give our budget's 148, 149. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you have to be flexible in communication.
Yeah. And the other thing I learned from that was repeat the last 3 words the person said back to you. They call it mirroring.
Yeah.
And they've actually done studies of like waitresses and waiters who they'll, instead of just reading back what the person ordered, they'll just repeat the last 3 words that the guest said.
Yeah.
And those people get much higher tips than the people who don't. So they have studies for everything, all this interesting stuff.
That is cool stuff.
So, all right, Jonaed, I just want to say thanks for coming on the podcast. Always a pleasure to meet you. I love your comments online. I always have a lot of fun with you when we hang out in person too.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, Jonaed Iqbal, Jonaed, last name Iqbal. Just let me know you listen to the podcast with Max, and I'll 100% accept your connection request.
All right. Thanks so much, Jonaed.